PHL 17 presents In Focus, a look at the issues affecting the Philadelphia region.
Well, thanks for joining us on In Focus. I'm Jennifer Lewis Hall. Revitalizing Camden and the big plans for its sustainability and stability is our focus today. First, take a step back in time with me as we look at the city set near Philadelphia and the Delaware River, a key growth area from its inception through the 20th century. The ferry industry helped trade across the Delaware River through the 1700s and early 1800s, and then the railroad to the late 1800s. A post-World War boom led to building activity. Then during the 1960s and 70s, construction activity declined. And now in modern times, Camden, like many cities, is facing issues including poverty and crime. But city officials say staging a comeback as some key companies look to call home may be the answer. Joining me to talk about that and what is needed is Mayor Dana Redd. Welcome to In Focus.
Thank you for having me, Jennifer.
It is a pleasure to have you here today, tackling a lot of big issues, substantive issues that impact so many people in a city that I'm going to say is still great because of a number of people who are there. But clearly, a lot has happened in Camden. We're looking at homicide rates and so much more. Some signs of improvement, you would say.
Absolutely. I think you set the stage that really dovetails into the change that is underway in the city. Since becoming mayor in 2010, we've made some tremendous strides, particularly in correcting our finances and then also ushering in a new public safety paradigm with our Camden County Police Department Metro Division, which, as you know, was lifted up by President Obama last year as a symbol of hope and progress for this nation. And we're continuing to see tremendous reductions in violent crime, and we are very proud of the work that's underway.
Looking at that economic sustainability is really the key here. What is different now? What is going to change for residents? How are we going to get people employed there? What is going to change some of the numbers significantly? Looking at new construction in Camden, talking about the 76ers, the Sixers actually under construction there in the city. That was a big one for you, but a lot of this also involving tax incentives as well and tax breaks there, looking at some construction underway of that 125,000 square foot facility taking root right in your city.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you asked that question. You know, unemployment has been one of the problems in the city of Camden. When I started in 2010, it was 19%. It's down to 11% presently. And I have to say it's because of the foundation that was laid with what we call our eds and meds, our anchor institutions, that quite frankly employ roughly 12,000 residents in the area, which is 40% of all Camden jobs. And that's just the beginning. What we're now doing is building on the foundation of the anchor institutions. We're building on, again, creating job opportunities for Camden residents. And there's a significant commitment from these projects that you mentioned to hire local residents.
All right, good news there to hear. But some other companies that are planting roots there, Subaru, Holtec, also PCM and Liberty Trust. As you look at companies like this, let's talk about that. Companies particularly being drawn by tax incentives, some people say that's a good thing, others say it doesn't necessarily work.
You know, I probably take the it's a good thing approach. One of the studies that was conducted for Camden, eConsult report back in 2001, indicated that in order to leverage and attract private investment to the city of Camden, because of the region that we're competing in, you need a strong business incentive program. And what the Economic Opportunity Act of 2013 gives us is exactly that tool, a business incentive program that lures and attracts businesses, not just to Camden, but in the state of New Jersey. So not only do we want to retain jobs, we also want to create jobs. So I can tell you, just with the companies that you've mentioned, about 13,300 jobs have either been retained and or created, 5,000 of which are construction jobs.
And looking at those numbers too, digging into those numbers, oftentimes companies have employees that work there, but getting them to live there, invest there, and stay there is a different issue.
Well, I'm
That's
really
one that
excited.
Camden
I'm
has
really
been trying to
excited about
tackle.
some of our developers that we have, one of which is M&M Developers and the work that they've done in Cooper Plaza neighborhood, 3-story historic homes. And listen, Camden is the place to come and live, work, and raise your families. It is the next frontier. I'm confident of that, and I'm so proud of the work that we've done just in 6 short years. And we're in year 7, and we're working as if it's, you know, we have a lot more to do.
Got to ask you about the waterfront, a look back at that. People said that would spur jobs, development, and growth. You feel confident now that this is different, and why so?
You know, Camden has had many false starts in the past, but I'm confident that because of the dynamic partnerships that we have at the federal, state, and county level, the private partnerships that we have with individuals like Liberty Property Trust, and so many others that are focused on Camden Rising and being a part of Camden Rising, but not just the bricks and mortar, but making sure that the people of Camden rise with their city, and that's what this is all about.
Let's talk a little bit about education before you actually go. Where are you now in terms of looking at some of the levels that really matter when we think about our children? Reading levels, sustainability, a lot of changes in the Camden school system, school closings, a lot has happened there. Where are we now?
So what I can tell you is that there have been tremendous partnerships, even with our school district, with the new superintendent, and with the state of New Jersey, that we are opening our Renaissance schools. We have Kip Cooper Norcross Academy that opened last year. Not only are they facilitating a strong academic program for the youth that attend that facility, but they've also made commitments to the community beyond the regular school hours. The other schools that are working in tandem with our public school system are Mastery, Uncommon, and these are, charter providers that provide a high quality education, and that's what our children need. They need an opportunity to go from cradle to college to career, or cradle to career if they so choose. And this collaboration is not a collaboration like we've seen play out in places like Newark. We actually involved the community with making these decisions, and it was parents that advocated for and asked for a better education for their children.
Image building, branding, rebranding, and feeling as if the name Camden is not synonymous with crime or other things that people saw perhaps on the national stage or heard. How are you changing, in fact, that image, if that's going to be part of this strategic plan also, as these companies come, as you open up kind of your pathway to the national stage? Of course, elections, Democratic, conferences will be held right across the river. What are you going to do with that?
Well, we've already begun. I think that the first step was changing the violent reduction in our crime that was happening in the city, seeing our homicides reduced. And, it was public safety first and foremost. That had to be the number one priority, because Camden had been billed as the most dangerous city in America for decades. And so we're turning the corner on that. We're not waving the white flag to say that victory has been, achieved. We know we still have more work to do in dynamic partnerships, and Camden was declared a promise zone under President Obama, and so we continue to expand those collaborations with nonprofits, with community residents, and others. The other, partnership that I can highlight is those that we have with our business community. They too see the importance of branding and raising up the image of Camden so that we have a new identity. And I believe that we're going to get there. Camden has had these titles for many years, but we're going to change it, and we're saying that Camden is the place to be. Camden's moving forward. Camden is rising.
All right, on that note, Mayor Dana Redd, we will continue to rise and move forward ahead on In Focus on PHL 17, developers building homes to help rebuild Camden. That's when In Focus comes right back. Stay with us. Well, In Focus continues now. We are talking about the revitalization of Camden, both in housing and looking at corporations looking to call Camden home. Joining me now is Maria Iglesias from M&M Developers. You are the president of M&M Developers, planting roots in the city of Camden and building new houses. Now, we just talked with the mayor and talked a lot about those types of economic strategic plans coming about by tax incentives and really drawing companies to the city. Some people say that works, other people say it doesn't. Tell me about what M&M's plans are and why Camden at this time.
Well, M&M came to Camden in the early 2000s. So we have been in the city for a while already, and we are very, very exciting at the times we are living right now. When we came to Camden, it was a general sense of depression in the city. People really didn't have much to look forward. We started working in the Cooper Plaza neighborhood, and at that point in the early 2000s probably was more derelict houses, abandoned houses, and vacant land than houses that were in good repair and people living on it. It was not a good time for the city. So our basic philosophy, the reason why we got to Camden is because my partner and I have a partner, her name is Maria Lopez,
Yes.
and that's where M&M comes from. We believe that housing is the most basic building block of a community. And that if you change the housing, you can change the community. We have been doing that in Newark.
And I was going to say, you are based out of Newark, New
We are
Jersey.
based in Newark, and we got into the affordable housing business in 1997 as M&M Development. And basically, our whole philosophy was that change housing, you change neighborhood, you change people's lives. And that's what we did in Newark. So we were lucky enough that the state noticed our work. We believe that you don't only have to build housing that has 4 walls and a roof, that you have to build housing that is beautiful, that will add up to the neighborhood, that people will like to live
So
on.
changing not only what it looks like, but also changing how people feel
Absolutely.
about where they live and preserving those neighborhoods.
Yes.
Let's talk about the investment, though, you have in Camden as well in terms of dollars and cents. What kind of investment are you talking about? What kind of housing stock? How much? And when can we expect to see all of this occurring?
We did 2 major projects in the Cooper Plaza neighborhood. Both projects combined produce 55 units of housing, and it was an investment of $15 million. And we broke ground in the Cooper building that is in the corner of New Street and 7th Avenue in 2010. And right after we finished that building, we went on to build in every single vacant lot in that neighborhood. And also, it was some beautiful historic homes that we took a lot of pride in preserving.
Who is the resident that you say is going to actually make an investment there in Camden, despite many issues that many people are still concerned about? We spoke about these with the mayor. They've been widely followed. Still issues with crime, still issues with public safety, still issues with drugs that still plague the city today. What are you facing in terms of saying, come to Camden if you're not in Camden, bring your family. This, as the mayor said, is the place to be. How are you looking at that and actually saying, okay, this housing is beautiful. People want to also feel good about coming, feel safe about coming. What are you doing?
That is true, and that is something that we knew that we will have to face, and that was going to play in our selling of the homes, because all our homes are for sale. You know, we have homeowners that move into Camden. I think the biggest factor on people choosing to buy our housing was the quality of our homes. When we got to the Cooper Plaza neighborhood, the average price of a house was $70,000. We sold houses for $230,000.
And we have some video also to show just some of the landscape of Camden and some of the open spaces and building that's going on there. That, of course, is a shot downtown of some of the the city and landscape. But even again, looking at some of these lots here and building that is going on, and it does seem like at some point it's at a fever pitch. But again, also a cautionary note of people saying, we remember when houses were being brought up, many of them remain boarded up. U.S. developers are coming in and changing that landscape and saying that these houses are a pretty hefty price. So who are you attracting? And give us an example of someone who's coming perhaps from another part of New Jersey or another county and why they're coming to Camden.
I would say that the main thing is that our buyers, they are urban dwellers. They want to live in an urban environment. So they are willing and ready to move to a city. That's what they are looking for. Then the quality of the building, the house that they are paying $200,000 in Camden, it would be $350,000 anywhere else. That is the type of quality of construction that we are bringing to the city. In order to do that, we had to partner up with New Jersey HMFA,
Right.
with EDA, with the city of Camden. So a lot of money is being put into these houses to produce the type of housing that a middle-class person
So who are
we
your
like to
buyers?
live in.
Where are they coming from, and who are you pitching your projects to? You're a North Jersey developer here in South Jersey. Is this for the person that wants to lessen their commute potentially, to from the suburbs to Philadelphia? Is this the person that wants to, raise a family in, as you said, perhaps an urban area? Who is that person?
We have a lot of our buyers, they were familiar with Camden. A lot of the people that we sold our houses to, they had a connection with the city. Either their grandparents were from Camden. They, a lot of them tell us, oh, I remember when I came here to visit my grandma that lived in the same street. So nobody, as far as I am aware of, one of our homes was really new to the city. But all of them believe in the city.
And what would you say before we go is then the biggest thing you've learned from the development that you had in Newark to the development that you have here in South Jersey? What are some of the commonalities?
Well,
Other than those that are obvious, both urban areas and so forth.
exactly. That is probably the biggest thing that we have in common.
But lesson learned?
What I learned is that in order to sell houses in either Newark or Camden, they have to be superior homes. And that is what is different probably than other intents that were done in the past. Traditionally, developers will go to a city like Newark, Camden, Patterson, Jersey City, and they will have that good enough attitude. I am building for very poor people. Anything I do is good enough. M&M Development turned that upside down. And we come to the city of Camden or to the city of Newark with the attitude that anything I build has to be better than anywhere else.
Right.
Because
so a rebirth,
that's
you're saying, for the housing stock and for the people of Camden.
absolutely. A middle-class person will not want to live in a derelict house. They want a good quality house, and that's what we are offering.
All right, M&M Developers, Maria Iglesias, thank you for joining us
Thank
on
you.
In Focus.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
up next is the strategic plan, right, for Camden's business community and its residents. We'll talk to a community organizer, that is, and hear what he has to say. That's when In Focus comes right back. Stay with us. In Focus continues now. I'm Jennifer Lewis Hall. Thanks for being with us. Promising signs for Camden, New Jersey, with some new corporations slated to come to the city. Joining me now is Brian Morton, who's exploring what's happening in the city on its business front and how residents are feeling about the changing landscape. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
It's great to have you with us today because you've been very active in the city of Camden. You are a father, you are a husband, you have 2 children.
Yes.
That you love so much, and you want to invest in them in the city that you grew up in, according to what you told us here. And you are the executive director at Parent Coalition for Excellent Education. I want to talk about that, but also something very interesting and important. You actually started up a little league.
Yeah.
Let's start there.
Okay. 2011, the mayor, in her boldness, said our police department wasn't working, and we have to come up with a new model. And so we were laying off our whole force. And as a resident, I got a sense from other residents that they were a little panicked. I knew my mayor had a plan. I had spoken with her, spoken with the chief. But on the streets, at a grassroots level, people were just feeling like, my God, it's going to be lawless. So me and my wife came up with the bright idea that, it was the perfect time to form a little league, almost like the United Nations, like, hey, let's band together and make this one park, if nothing else, safe for kids after school. And from that first experiment, we grew from 60 players to now, each year we have over 550 players between the age of 5 and 18 playing baseball and softball, and it's really recreated our sense of community and also helped push back some of the negative behaviors that had taken ownership of our parks in our neighborhood.
And parks, neighborhoods, and our kids.
That's right.
Wouldn't
That's
you say,
right.
and your children
And
in the city,
they were
whether
our-
that be
they were our
drugs, gang violence, et cetera.
Yeah, there was no safe place for our kids to play. And the most prominent role models were the men and women who had chosen to opt out of traditional society. So, you know, our children had a greater likelihood of seeing someone that was going to end up dead or in prison than someone that was going to end up with a doctorate. And we wanted to change that dynamic.
We actually have some video here of just some scenes of Camden itself. If you go through the city, you see many glimmers of hope as well. We just talked about new housing. You also see, though, still, you know, houses that are abandoned or boarded up, and street scenes too, where, you know, you do see the impact of the economic struggle on residents there. What concerns you most still?
The greatest concern for me is that residents won't take ownership of their voice.
What does that mean?
What that means is that, you know, over the past decades, as we have sort of lived through the economic decline in Camden, our community has sort of adopted a disenfranchised perspective. So we don't engage our leadership as much as we should, and we don't engage our leadership with the audacity that we should have as residents, you know, to come.
So what do you want to see more residents do? Obviously, you're very active. I know many active residents in Camden, as you do too. So it's not everybody, but what do you say more people need to be doing?
Show up. We need to show up at community meetings to learn what's going on, to learn of the opportunities that are coming, and more importantly, to learn how those opportunities align with our neighborhood plan, our city master plan, and then to take that information back into our households and into our communities. So often on social media, on Facebook, and, you know, maybe even around the stoop, you know, conversations denigrate into anecdotal tales or, you know, conversations of individuals. We need to be speaking of ideals and ideas, and that should be what our children should be seeing from our mothers and fathers.
How would you say that, looking though at whether that is, you live there, so you don't have to look at a statistic to tell you what's going on.
That's right.
But how would you say that things are working in terms of the mayor trying to implement certain initiatives? Are you not satisfied, but do you see it working? And what are other residents telling you?
Absolutely. So it's in North Camden, so the mayor shared Camden was once deemed the most dangerous city at the same time as the poorest city, and North Camden was its most violent neighborhood. We were responsible for something like almost a third of the total homicides annually, and North Camden is just 9 square blocks. And so in the time that she took that bold step in 2011 until now, our homicide rate has almost decreased by 2/3 citywide. But in North Camden alone, sadly, one person lost his life this year.
Yeah.
But promisingly, when compared to years in the past, that's one homicide out of potentially 20 plus homicides in one small neighborhood. So in just my neighborhood alone, we've attended less funerals. In my neighborhood alone, the likelihood of a young person witnessing a violent crime during the hours prior to or after school has decreased. So there are resemblance or semblances of great change happening. Is it happened everywhere? No, and that's why residents, you know, the leadership is one component.
Right.
The business community is another component. But between the hours of 5 p.m. and 8 a.m., where are the residents at? And so, you know,
And that's where you feel the voice should be.
That's where the voice should be.
That coupled with the business community.
That's right.
Well, Brian Morton, we thank you for being on In Focus today and wish you and your family and all of the residents of Camden, of course, continued success with these initiatives as they see fit. That'll do it for me here. I'm Jennifer Lewis Hall. Please join me again on Monday morning starting at 5:30 for PHL 17 Morning News. On behalf of all of us here at PHL 17, have a great weekend.